What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the neighborhood. This week, we're taking a trip down memory lane and talking about games that we remember fondly. So put on your rose-colored glasses and join us as we pontificate about nostalgia.
Welcome to the podcast where two longtime friends and sometimes a guest talk about their favorite games from the perspective of an average player. My name is Andrew Kimball.
And I'm Dylan Wren, and we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
So, Dylan, like I mentioned before, we're going to be taking a bit of a trip down memory lane and talking about some old games, some nostalgia games, some things from the past. But before we get into that, I want to talk about a game that has not come out yet, that was recently announced and was a pretty big disappointment to me. And I'm sure probably many other fans of the series. Did you happen to see the announcement/gameplay trailer for Assassin's Creed Jade?
I saw whatever they had at the Ubisoft press conference, which was like a brief, quick look where I don't know if they said that it was going to be mobile directly, like in that trailer. But I know I read like after the fact that it was going to be mobile. I haven't watched the newest trailer because I saw that it was going to be mobile and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to be playing this game. But
yeah.
You were surprised by the fact that it was a mobile game. You were hyped for the trailer and then watched it and then were let down, it sounds like.
So my experience is that school has started back up and I have been sick. So I've been pretty out of touch with like a lot of this stuff. Like I didn't really even realize that Gamescom was happening till it was about over.
Yeah.
So I just happened to be on YouTube and was like, oh, Assassin's Creed Jade. Like I'm pretty sure it said like gameplay or gameplay announcement trailer or something like that. And I was like, wow, I feel like I would have heard about the next big Assassin's Creed game. That's crazy. Let me check it out. And so I clicked on the trailer. It's like, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. And it's this assassin who you like never really see their face running around doing stuff that looks kind of similar to like the most recent RPG games that we've been getting. But the whole time, something just seemed a little bit off. It was like, it felt like a weird trailer for the next mainline game. It wasn't like cinematic like we usually get first.
Yeah.
It didn't feel high budget. The animations looked janky. So there was just something off about the whole thing.
Yeah. It looked like when I remember watching like the other one and I was like, is this coming out on like just the Switch? Like what is going on here?
Exactly. Yeah. If it was just a Switch game, that would have made sense too. So it ends. And I don't think at the end of that trailer, they had like
like
iOS.
a platform.
Yeah. Or whatever at the end. But I started scrolling down through the comments just to kind of see like maybe if other people had noticed it looked a little bit weird or what was going on with it. And everybody was like, oh, I was excited about this game until I realized it was on mobile. And so many people were saying that I thought it was like a meme. Because, sometimes you like YouTube comments, everybody just like jumps on the bandwagon of a meme.
Yeah.
It's really popular to do that on TikTok as well. And then I did a little bit more digging and realized that no, they were all 100% true. This is a mobile game coming to iOS and like Google Play. And I still don't really fully understand it, or because like Assassin's Creed Jade is the one set in like China. It's like the Asian inspired. It's literally the setting that everybody has been clamoring for forever. Yeah. And then Ghost of Tsushima came out and people are like, oh, this is cool. It's kind of like an old school Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, which is really cool. And then Ubisoft announced, hey, we're going to do that too. We're going to make our game. And they announced it along with like 2 or 3 other projects.
Yeah.
So people just kind of assumed. Yeah. People just kind of assumed that this was going to be like the next mainline game. And then it comes out as a mobile game with like little to no fanfare. They kind of just dropped the trailer. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Is it free? Do we know that yet? Because like that,
I mean, think they've said.
Yeah. Because like, number one, I don't want to be a Ubisoft apologist here because they've been making just terrible choice after terrible choice. But like, I can see them being like, oh, we're trying to tap into like the Asian market where there are a lot more people who play mobile games in the Asian market than there are here. At least mobile games like of that caliber.
Right.
When I think of a mobile game, I'm thinking more of like, you know, your match 3s or your more base, like anything that you play with your phone in like portrait mode, not landscape mode. You know?
You can
like
play
if you
with
have,
one hand.
I assume you're not, you know, in portrait mode for this Assassin's Creed Jade. I assume you have to turn it sideways, which is a whole different thing. And so I can kind of see it, but at the same time, it's like, but it'd be really, really cool if you made a Assassin's Creed game that was set in like Japan or China or something that was also like a game on a console. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
And so, and like if it's free, like I guess I think about like Diablo Immortal, where like Blizzard announced Diablo Immortal, a bunch of people got super upset because they're like, we don't want this. And then like it came out and it's fine. And there's, you know, discussions you could have about like predatory like microtransactions and gating parts of the game behind like, or gating progress in the game behind like the things that you can technically get free, but you can speed it way up if you pay for it or whatever. Like obviously there are those kind of concerns whenever we're talking about a mobile game. But like I've played a little bit of Diablo Immortal and it seemed fine. I personally don't play games on mobile very often that are not like Marvel Snap or Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to play? Number one, if it's free, do you see yourself downloading it and trying it, or are you just like, I'm not even bothering with that?
I might try it if it's free. I kind of have two thoughts. Like, if it's free to play, then that means there's gonna be a store in this game with like some BS stuff that they're selling, whether it's like progression or just cosmetics or who knows what there's gonna be, or there's gonna be ads, God forbid.
Yeah.
I see it, well, I don't know, because the mobile market, like if you want to charge for a mobile game, it's such a like weird thing. People don't like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say charging anything more than like $10 for a mobile game is ridiculous. And so like, can they make a good quality Assassin's Creed game and charge $10 for it? I don't know.
Yeah. I think I'll be curious enough that if it's like either affordable, like I pay $10 on a season pass for Marvel Snap or $10 on lunch. So like if it's in that price range, I might download it just to see what it's about. If it's free, I'll download it just to check it out because I want to be able to talk about it. But my other thing is that, you kind of referenced it, but it just kind of feels like a slap in the face to the dedicated fan base that you like took this cool concept and setting and put it on mobile. Like I understand wanting to reach another audience, but do that with, I don't know, it with something that's less exciting.
Well, you know what would have been great as a mobile game? Those side scroller Assassin's Creeds. They actually might even be mobile games too. I don't know. And like
the ones that people don't really like or talk about or play.
Well, the ones you don't. There were some people in the comments of YouTube that were like, "How dare you?" But
I mean, there was at least like one or two people.
Yeah,
but come.
but yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a hater on mobile games. Like, it is the biggest market. Like, Microsoft is not buying Activision Blizzard King for Activision or Blizzard. They're buying it for King. Like, that is the big part that they're doing it for.
But King is not making an open world game where you hide in the shadows and stab people in the throats. They're making Candy Crush.
Exactly. And so on the one hand, I'm like, it's cool that mobile games and mobile gamers are getting, like a different experience than they would normally get. You know, you're not just like matching Assassin's Creed symbols in threes or whatever. At the same time, I also wonder how many people that consider themselves mobile gamers that play games on their mobile phones are looking for this type of experience.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the Switch has done well. You know, there's clearly a market for like a more portable gaming experience. But I don't know that anyone's getting that on their phones. You know, like obviously they sell the little like controllers that you can plug your phone into or whatever, and you know, but
yeah, like the backbone and stuff.
Yeah.
But you made a good point talking about like Japan and Asian markets and stuff, because they have a different mentality when it comes to because when I think about the American or Western mobile gaming like demographic, they're not the people playing Assassin's Creed. They're not the people attaching a backbone to their phone. Like the people that are responsible for it being like the biggest gaming market or whatever are the people playing like Wordle and Words with Friends and Trivia Crack or whatever was super popular back in the day. Like those are the mobile gamers that make it like a big market, and they don't want to play Assassin's Creed. My mom and her
word games. Like she's not interested in playing Assassin's Creed. She like if you made an Assassin's Creed themed Words with Friends, maybe, but
still probably not.
But still
like, I don't know what that is. I don't care about that. The IP has no attachment to that demographic. So it's a weird decision that kind of feels like it's caught between worlds almost. Like it's irritating the diehard Assassin's Creed like PC and console fan base, and then the mobile gamers, you know, at least in our part of the world, I don't know that this is something they're interested in.
Yeah. And I will say, I wouldn't be shocked to see it come to PC, because other successful mobile games of this kind of ilk have. Yeah. Like Diablo Immortal is also on PC. Genshin Impact, I think, is on PC. I think it's on consoles now too, but it
was on PS4 and mobile originally, I think.
Yeah. And so it's like there are, and you know, like I think there are, like I think you can get like the old Baldur's Gates and stuff like on your phone or whatever. Like I don't know who's buying them and playing, and like a lot of the old Final Fantasies I think are on there. Again, I don't necessarily know who's like buying and playing like Final Fantasy IV on your phone. It's probably a fine way to play it, but like you said, when I think of people who are playing mobile games, I'm not thinking of somebody who's wanting to sit down and put like 30 hours into something. I'm thinking of somebody who's looking for a bite-sized experience that they can have on the go. And getting into an assassin, like again, anything where you have to turn the phone sideways is like, are people looking for this? And again, like I said, maybe Ubisoft doesn't care at all what happens in the Western market. Maybe they are targeting the Eastern market, and if it does well there, that's all they care about. But it does smell of like Ubisoft's corporate decisions lately, where it's like, well, mobile games make a lot, so just put this on mobile. And then everyone's like, that's a bad idea. I don't care. Do it anyway. So
yeah, and then you mentioning it could come to PC. It probably will, but it's always going to be like a lesser game than it could have been if it was an actual console or PC game. Like it will never be
it'll be like Liberation.
Yeah, it will never be like a Valhalla or an Origins or anything as far as like size and technical prowess and animations and anything like that. It'll always feel like a mobile ported to the PC, which, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. What would it take for you to get invested in a mobile game? Like what would Assassin's Creed Jade have to do to hook you and make you actually play it? Is there anything, or
I don't know, man, because for me, if I want to play a game like an Assassin's Creed game, I want it to be big on my TV. I like the feeling of pushing buttons and moving a control stick in my hand. Like I've been gaming like that since I was a kid. So you're losing the screen size. You got to put like headphones in if you want good audio. You're probably going to be playing touch controls, or you're going to have to do some sort of weird janky Bluetooth like Xbox controller to your phone thing. So even if it's like say a 7 out of 10 video game, like as far as story and the gameplay loop and whatever. It's like just the experience is not what I'm looking for when I want to play a game. And we don't really know what this game is. It could just be like little bite-sized assassination, like sandbox missions or something that are all like kind of strung together. And
yeah, like a Hitman sort of situation.
Yeah, and you get like a star Hitman rating at the end or something. You know, it could just be that, and maybe, you know, then it is a little bit more conducive to the platform. But like, when the reason I like Marvel Snap on my phone so much is because it's like a couple minutes, and then I can play another game if I want to, but I'm also only committing to a couple minutes. If I have to jump into like a 10-15 minute like assassination mission where I have to turn my phone sideways and use both hands, and it just it would have to be like the best Assassin's Creed game ever, probably, for me to put myself through that experience. I would rather like mirror it to my TV and Bluetooth it, like Bluetooth my controller to my phone and play it that way than to sit there like hunched over my phone using touch controls with like my earbuds in.
Yeah. Now, what if it also comes to Switch?
I would probably play it if it was, I'd put it on the wish list, and then as soon as I saw that it was like
on sale, boom,
80% off or something at some point, I'd pull the trigger and play through it. But mostly just to say that I did, so that the YouTube comments can't call me out for it next time I rank them. But, you know. Yeah.
Still refuse to play the first Assassin's Creed, but play Jade. No.
I'll rank Jade above number 1. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, it was a weird turn of events. Ubisoft is kind of sketching me out lately.
Yeah, there's a lot of just very, very questionable decisions that they continue to make, and I'm just like, what is going on over there? Somebody tell corporate no.
Yeah, it's not the point of this episode, but it's so weird to see these companies like Ubisoft. People love their games at one point, and then they kind of went into this real like downturn era where like Ubisoft was like the worst company of all time, and then
they had that
as time went on. Exactly, like EA started taking that mantle, and Ubisoft actually, like, the quality of their games went up. You know, people started liking them better. They were doing really good with their like Tom Clancy games and stuff like that. And Assassin's Creed, they took some time off and they like refreshed it, and now it's like they're going back down again. It's like, what? Did you learn nothing? Which, I mean, it's corporations. It's obviously not just like one person. So it's like you get different management, you get different whatever. Like it's hard to make a decision made in that setting we don't see the effects of for, say, like 4 or 5 years. So it's like they could be trying to turn the ship right now. We won't see the effects for a while, but it's like, man, what is going on over there?
Yeah, because it's like that's been the interesting thing to watch, because it's like EA has been coming out and like they're still not great, but they've kind of gotten back into the good graces more recently for the most part. And and Ubisoft has kind of replaced them as like the joke of like, well, it's an Ubisoft game, so it's probably trash.
Yeah. But Ubisoft's not alone. You've got, they're hanging out with like Activision Blizzard and some of these other companies.
Oh, yeah.
BioWare falling from grace. So
yeah, that one hurts. That one hurts a lot.
Which, I mean, they're part of EA, so I guess that.
Yeah.
But anyways, you wanna look back at happier times?
Sure. Yeah, we can dive into the nostalgia a little bit.
So, nostalgia in video games specifically. So this was a topic that you kind of came up with. Do you want to kind of pitch it and maybe give an overview of what we're doing on this episode?
Yeah. So I figured what we could do for this one is just kind of talk in general about like video game nostalgia, kind of what it means to us, maybe some games that we're nostalgic for, maybe stuff that we've kind of like gone back and played out of nostalgia. Has it held up? Has it not? But more of like a broader overview of nostalgia. A lot of it may even just be like nostalgia for like gaming as a child versus what we do today. And if people dig it, if people are like into the conversation, want to hear more, or, you know, like we're talking about, you know, some games that they were like, oh, like you guys are talking about Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, the video game. Like, I'd love to hear a full episode about that. You know, if you are one of those people, let us know in the comments, in the, you know, in the Discord, whatever. And we may make this a more reoccurring thing where, you know, maybe once a month, every couple of months, something like that. We hop into a game we played as kids that we have fond memories for, and just kind of like chit chat about it, deep dive, do some trivia, maybe play it again if we can. Some of these, I don't even know if we're easily able to play them again. Like, I've got 007 Nightfire on my list. I don't know how you play that anymore. Like,
yeah,
that was a great game on my GameCube, but I don't have a copy of it, and I don't know where you would. I'm sure I could find it on eBay for some ridiculous price, but
yeah, and then play it on your GameCube and have to like buy one of those.
I could figure out how to emulate something, but
they sell those like HD kind of converter things too for like GameCubes and stuff, so that when you plug in your GameCube into like a modern TV, it kind of adapts to it, or you can like set it to where it will be in like the original
like 4:3
kind of aspect ratio and the original kind of like look to it, but still clear, like not stretched out and all jacked up. So,
but yeah, if you're into this, if you like hearing us talk about old games that we played as kids that we think were pretty cool, you know, we could make it a reoccurring thing, potentially. But I figured to start with, we just chit chat about it from like a more broad level, starting with, what would you like when you think of like nostalgia, gaming nostalgia? What are you thinking of?
It kind of breaks down into like, I guess, time periods in my mind. There's kind of like eras, if you will. Like, there's the way back. There's like the fuzzy memories, and that's like the Super Nintendo. That's like playing old school Mario, old school Kirby, and some of that is a little like fuzzy because like Caleb, growing up with him, he had all those old consoles and they were always hooked up, so like we would dabble in old games as we got older still. But like when I was real young and lived in New Mexico, like I remember having a neighbor that had like a Super Nintendo and playing Mario over there. I remember another neighbor had like Mortal Kombat, and my parents were like, you shouldn't be playing that game once they found out that it was over there. I don't remember if it was, I think it was the Nintendo version, which means it was like sweat instead of blood, but still it was like, you know, for the time, very violent and, you know, Mortal Kombat. Right. And then the next era is probably like when I think peak nostalgia, it's kind of that like growing up tail end of the N64, mostly like GameCube, and then like early maybe 360 era. So it's a lot of the games that I used to play with my sister, a lot of the games that I used to just play over and over and over because it's what I had. So like, you know, you mentioned Return of the King. It was a great game, but it was also a game that like I played certain levels just over and over and over. I had the cheat codes, I had all the characters because like it was one
Southern Gate.
Yep. And then like the Walls of Minas Tirith, I think I played a lot.
Yep. It's a good one.
But it was like I had 3 good games and then maybe a handful of games that like the cover looked cool, but I ended up not really liking this game. So I would replay the 3 good ones a lot.
Oh, for sure. Like, I didn't look at the 360 or the Xbox One or whatever, but I did look through a Wikipedia list of, I think, every GameCube game, and it was not as long as I thought it would be. And so I was just like, oh, yeah. Like, this was the era where, like, you could just, you know, like, I think there were less than, like, 1,000 games total on the GameCube. And it was like, oh, okay. Like, let me just scroll through this list real quick to see what I played when I was a child.
Yeah. So that's like peak nostalgia for me. That was like a lot of couch co-op, especially with my sister. My brothers, he got a little bit bigger, but there's a bigger age gap between us, especially back then. You know, the difference between like 10 and 5 is
Yeah.
Way more
huge.
significant than like 15 and 20 when you're playing games with somebody.
Yep.
And then kind of like leading into like the Wii and then like the 360 and that kind of era, there were still some games that I consider nostalgic, but basically once I could buy my own stuff,
Yeah.
like that's like a new era. And so then that was when I was like buying my own games, and like I still would consider myself nostalgic for say like the original or like Assassin's Creed 2 or something, or like GTA 4, because those are some of the first games I played on Xbox 360. But also there's something interesting because that was when like I can still play those games now pretty easily. Like I could hop on my Xbox Series X right now and play Grand Theft Auto 4. I could play Assassin's Creed 2. I could play the like remastered Ezio collection or whatever, but I could just go play the old 360 version too. I have it.
You have it.
It's in my library. So there's something about like the fact that I can still pull it up and look at it right now that makes it seem less nostalgic, even though it's still pretty far back in the past at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I would agree. Like I think it's I kind of have those eras too, and I think one of the biggest delineators for me is like that move from like I'm a kid playing things that like I can get my parents to agree to let me buy because like it's tea and they have to like be there to approve the like, yes, this is a 13-year-old child because, you know, like you don't have a driver's license when you're 13.
Right.
That line between when my parents were like there and then when I was, you know, buying my own stuff and, you know, and also that line, like you said, kind of also generally coincides with how easy it is to go back and play, because there are Xbox games, like original Xbox games that are backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X and whatever, but you can't just put any Xbox disc in. 360, you could just put any Xbox disc in and it would work. You can't just do that anymore. And so like there are more from that generation, especially GameCube, because we had a GameCube prior to Hurricane Katrina down here. And so a lot of my the big collection of GameCube games that I had is somewhere out in the Gulf of Mexico at this point. And so like there are some, like, because I mentioned 007 Nightfire earlier. And I never rebought that game after, because like at that point I just bought Halo for my Xbox, you know, like
right.
And so like 007 Nightfire was like my parents let me watch James Bond, and James Bond 007 Nightfire was rated T, and so it was like, oh yeah, you can get that game because it's a James Bond game, versus like an M-rated Halo game. It's like that was a little bit harder to get by them, and
That's
so
funny
I just
to
never
think about that.
Yeah, so I just never rebought 007 Nightfire because I was like, well, I have Halo now, so I don't need it. There's kind of like that, I guess, delineation for me as well. And like you, I am definitely like nostalgic for the Mass Effect trilogy or whatever that at this point I've played years and years ago. Like I can go back and play the remasters, but you know, to an extent, I think it's a time and place thing too. You know, the nostalgia of, I think I played through the Mass Effect trilogy during like a summer when I was taking like summer classes. And so like I'd go to my summer class and then I'd come home and then I'd play like 5 hours of Mass Effect and then go like do some other stuff or whatever. And so it was like kind of nostalgia for the game, but also like the time and place that it was at.
Yeah,
I think a little bit.
I think time and place are huge. There was probably like, I don't know if it was a summer, there was a season of my life where me and my brother got like really into Midnight Club LA, the Rockstar like racing game. I mean, like really into it. We were playing it like every day.
And he has not grown out of that yet.
Yeah. And now, like I have really fond feelings about that game. I remember, like I look back on it as like one of my favorite car games ever, and that's like not one of my like go-to genres. But there's just something about this one, the way it felt to play, maybe the fact that we were playing it together. But anytime I like see it on sale or see it somewhere now, and I like look at the screenshots and stuff, I'm like, I just know that if I boot that up, it's gonna taint my memories of it. Like it's not gonna. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, there's that hit. That's, it's just not going to be the same. And so I just leave it. I leave it there in the past, leave the good memories.
Yeah.
And that's where it will stay. If they ever made a new one, I'd probably try it, but
yeah,
I don't know if even that would hit. It was just kind of a time and place. We just both happened to be into it, vibing with it, enjoying it. And they had an As I Lay Dying song in that game on the radio.
Really? Wow. That's crazy.
It was the opening track to the Oceans Between Us album.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name of it.
I know, I can hear the
I know exactly
chorus.
what you're talking about though.
Yeah.
So that was like their biggest album for me.
Yeah, it was one of their best.
Yeah. Cause that's something that I think we'll talk a little bit more in depth about though, of just kind of like, does stuff still hold up? Cause there's a lot of things that we remember fondly, but a lot of times it's like, ooh, if you go back and try them, it's like that it's not holding up. Because we already kind of like touched on some of these other like notes that I have, like how old does something have to be for you to have nostalgia for it, And it sounds like we've kind of come down on the like, well, it doesn't have to be that old, like it could just be like there's stuff on the Xbox One that I played, maybe towards the beginning that maybe I'm kind of nostalgic for,
I also think it has to do with like the impact it had on you. So like if I took a couple years off and didn't play Bloodborne, I bet if I went back and played Bloodborne, like the hit that it would give me of nostalgia and like just like, oh yeah, this is that good stuff would be stronger than if I went back to play like Dead Rising 3 or something, which is a game I played longer ago, but it just didn't really have an impact on me.
Yeah. Well, because even like for me right now, I've recently restarted Elden Ring. Made a new character, and like we played so much Elden Ring when it launched last year, and there were probably like 2 or 3 months solid of like Elden Ring was the only game I was playing.
Yeah.
And then I had beaten it like 2 or 3 times, and I just kind of like took a step back from it, like took some time off, like not because I thought it was a bad game, but just because I was like, okay, I've done a lot, I've seen a lot, and I'm playing other stuff. And so now it's been like 1.5 years since I've played it, and I started up a new character. And even just going back to that, there's a lot of nostalgia of just like, man, this world is so cool. This game is so cool. Like, I love this.
I remember the first time I like went up this elevator and saw Limgrave for the first time, and the world has background music, and
Yes. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that like, cause like we talked about, I think there's a lot that kind of goes into nostalgia, and a lot of it is the impact, the time, the place, in addition to the game. And I think a lot more of what I have nostalgia for is older.
Yeah.
But I think that is, like I said, I think that's more about like time, place, and other factors versus the game itself, cause like looking at my list of games that I pulled up, like there are a lot of trash games that I played that I have nostalgia for that I know would not hold up, but I'm sure a lot of it's like time, place, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, because without time and place and everything else, it's just a thing. It's kind of like music. A song is just a song, but like certain songs they connect you to a time and a place. Like there will always be certain songs that I hear and I'm like, oh, I immediately go back to like this specific summer or this specific thing that happened. And it's like, it really is almost just kind of like a method of transporting you back to a different time and place that is usually, but I guess it's probably always like better. It's a good memory. That's why you get that nostalgic feeling of, that kind of like longing to be back there.
Yeah. Like whatever it is, simpler times or just happier times or whatever. Yeah. Cause even just like talking about As I Lay Dying, it's like I'm transported back to our first like metal show, that a bunch of like teenage kids were going to.
Yeah.
So what are I guess, some of the other nostalgic or parts of the nostalgia experience. To me, what I think of is like physical games. Like now, I haven't bought a physical game in 2-3 years. Like I'm only buying digital. So like, I do feel like sometimes they're like, even just like, this is going to make us sound old, but like a lot of like growing up, a lot of the games on my list are things that I went into a Blockbuster and like got to browse the aisles and like bring home. Like, I don't think we ever owned Mario Party 4, but we sure as hell rented it enough to own it. Like, we should have just bought it at that point because we were paying like $5 a time to rent it. And so I think there's, it's not that I like the convenience of a digital game, but I won't lie and say that it's not cool to have like a little tactile like game case with the manual and stuff. Like, even if you buy a physical game now, you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
They used to come with manuals that told you a bunch of stuff about the world and like had art and stuff in it. Like,
it
was cool. I think about like the demo kiosks in like Walmart where your mom would like drop you off and let you play like random video games. Or just like, I mean, GameStop still exists, but it was like so much cooler than it is now back in the day. So, and maybe that's just like me being a kid in a GameStop versus me now, but like they were way cooler, I think, back in their prime.
Oh yeah.
Even just like getting like a Game Informer. Game Informer still technically exists, but like it used to, like now that the internet exists, like I already know everything that's going to be in the Game Informer, know, like it's not like I'm shocked by it. I've had that information before Game Informer publishes, and it's still interesting to like see their review scores and stuff. But like back when we were growing up, that was how you found out about game stuff was you got your Game Informer and you're like, you couldn't get on IGN and read their article about like all the big stuff announced at E3. You had to wait a month for Game Informer to publish. They're like, here's all the cool stuff that was at E3.
Yeah, I remember like poring over Game Informers, like the ones with Red Dead Redemption, Witcher 3. Game Informer still does to a certain extent like get exclusive coverage and get like, have more in-depth interviews and things like that. But a lot of that stuff goes up on the site, and then as soon as because their cover story is usually something that's like exclusive, right? Yeah. So they get like an exclusive cover story for, say, like, I don't know, say they would have gotten it for Elden Ring, like before Elden Ring came out, like at peak hype. They may have actually. But then as soon as like they announce what their cover story is, and then as soon as that information is out from them, it's just regurgitated across the internet by everybody else too. So it's like, unless you really want to flip through a magazine, like you can get it instantly anywhere else.
Yeah. It's not like it shows up in your mailbox and you're like, I didn't even realize FromSoft was made. Like,
exactly.
Like it used to be like, this is your first time seeing FromSoft is making a new game. And now it's like everyone knew FromSoft was making a new game, like it's, so it's a different experience. And I'm not saying that to say like, oh, it's so much worse now. Like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer and be like, gaming back in the day used to be so much better than this microtransaction battle pass bullshit that there is today, like so many people on the internet, because I don't believe that. I genuinely don't believe gaming is worse today than it was back then.
I think gaming is improving.
But, I'm not going to lie and say that my like being a kid and opening up a new Game Informer or getting a new game and unwrapping the plastic wrap and flipping through the manual wasn't peak experience. So,
well, and going along with that, having like a player's guide or like a walkthrough book, that was also really cool too. Especially you were either too young to use the internet, or the internet was like nowhere near as effective. Like you could go to like a GameFAQs or something and half the stuff on there was just flat out wrong or lies. So if you had like we had like the official Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess walkthrough, and that like thing got wore out
or whatever.
Yeah, it was.
I saw it. Aubrey, I think Aubrey brought it over to like Joe's house the other day. When we were like all over there or something, and like I saw it just like beat so bad, like flipped it, like you could tell it was well worn.
There were certain parts of that game that like we would forget every time we played through it, and it was like, okay, where do we need to go now? What part? And we always had that walkthrough, because I mean, Twilight Princess is actually a pretty long game with quite a bit that like gets fuzzy in the back half for me. But yeah, I think I had like a Soul Calibur 2 guide. I had I maybe even had, no, I think it was Caleb that had the Mario Sunshine guide. So like, it was cool to have, because then you had the information, but then it also had like artwork and information and stuff, especially if it was like from Nintendo or from like one of the actual really good guide makers. So yeah, that was something that's like irrelevant unless you're like a collector now, because every website makes guides.
Yeah, I've got like the Witcher 3 guide, and I've got like the Elden Ring guide and the Dark Souls 3 guide, but that's because I love those games and I think they're cool. And it's not because, like, if I'm doing something in The Witcher 3, I'm not looking it up in my nice, like, fancy, like, coffee table hard book guide of The Witcher 3. I'm looking it up online.
You're typing, like, Witcher 3 frying pan lady, boom, and then the first or second result you're going to tap on. And it might be a website you've never heard of that's full of ads, but it doesn't matter because you just need them to tell you one thing. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And
what is the consequences of not giving her back her frying pan?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I going to get Siri killed? I just need to know this. So
there's this, like, really long pause in the conversation while I look up which dialogue choice I want to go with.
Yeah. And it just keeps, like, cutting back between Geralt and the lady and Geralt and the lady. And it's just like, okay.
You get to the guide. It doesn't really matter what you choose here. Either one nets the same result. Okay.
Yep. Good. Yep. And, you know, I guess another part of the nostalgia experience is like couch co-op, couch split screen with like siblings, with friends, with, you know, like in this day and age, most of the time I'm playing multiplayer games, like you and I are, like, we're still playing together. It's usually just like over Xbox Live, like via voice chat or whatever. Like I'll still play Diablo with my sister, but she'll call me up on my phone because she doesn't know how to work Xbox Live game chat. It doesn't matter. She doesn't listen to our podcast. She's just on it occasionally.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like it's those are some, like, one of my earliest memories of our friendship is like you coming over to our house and us playing Lord of the Rings, The Third Age in the dark, which is like the basically like JRPG turn-based, like Final Fantasy-esque Lord of the Rings game, you know?
Yep. I remember that too.
And so in this day and age, like that's just not something people do or like not like most games don't even have like split screen because not enough people use it to make it worth developing it.
Yeah.
But also like that was a cool little thing back in the day to like, as someone with a lot of siblings, to be able to like put on, you know, like Super Smash Brothers Melee and all of us just like have fun playing Super Smash Brothers, you know, or Mario Party. Obviously you can still do this with Smash Brothers and Mario Party. Those were bad examples, but
yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I remember, I mean, I already mentioned playing with my sister. We used to play a lot of stuff together, but like you and I used to, it was like pretty much any time we hung out, we were playing something. And I remember this is when we were a little bit older, like I drove myself to your house, but like I came over, and it may have been over a couple days. It was like summer break or something. And we just played like all of Left 4 Dead 2.
Yep.
Just like start to finish, played the whole game. And so that was fun. I think there's probably nothing more nostalgic than getting everybody together. You got all 4 GameCube controllers plugged in. You got your snacks, you got everything. You have the GameCube pulled away from the TV so that everybody can sit all the way back on the couch because the cord wasn't long enough.
No one's accidentally like pulling the cords out and pausing the game. Yep.
Well, yeah, see, then what happens is like your youngest brother or somebody comes in the room, trips over the cords, yanks all the shit off the TV stand, knocks over some drinks. Yeah, that was peak gaming back then.
Oh, yeah. Is there anything else you'd add to that list? Any other things that like you feel like go along with the nostalgic experience? Or,
I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. I think especially growing up
Yeah.
with like siblings or friends that played games, there was a lot of like the OG Twitch streaming where like you'd be playing something and you'd have like a sibling or some friends watching you and you'd all kind of be like working together or like you'd be showing them this cool thing you found. So like that's
like
that's
in-person
pretty,
Twitch streaming.
Exactly. You're playing for them. That's pretty nostalgic. You mentioning Blockbuster took me back, man. I remember that was a huge thing. I remember calling the Blockbuster in Long Beach every single day asking if they had Shadow the Hedgehog until they finally did. It got to the point where the lady like knew who it was because it was this like little boy who hadn't hit puberty yet that would call like every day at like 9:30 when they opened or whatever, and she's like, no, we don't have it yet. And then I played that game and it wasn't that great, but at that age I didn't know any better. I thought it was amazing.
Yep.
Those were the days.
That is. Let's jump into like I don't want to park on any of these games, but what are some of the like peak nostalgia games for you?
Yeah, so when I think like nostalgia, especially in that like kind of, I guess, golden era, like I was talking about, like immediately what pops in my mind is like Wind Waker, Super Mario Sunshine, Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah.
It probably like those are the big ones. I definitely played a ton of Guitar Hero 3. That was a little bit later. Return of the King, we mentioned that one. And then there's like, tiers coming down from that where it's like, some of these games also like pop in my head, if I think a little bit longer about it, or I'm like, oh yeah, we also used to play this all the time. But like 100% like I played Mario Sunshine and Wind Waker and Guitar Hero and Soul Calibur 2 like a ton. I mean, I played Guitar Hero 3 so much that certain tracks would like crash the game.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Like I said earlier, like I had to convince my parents of like, hey, can I get this game? So like the two safest things were like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Like if it was Lord of the Rings branded, if it was Star Wars branded, it was an automatic like, yeah, you can get that. That's fine. So like I have a lot of nostalgia for like the old school original like Xbox, GameCube era Lord of the Rings games. And like PC, like there was that Fellowship of the Ring game that wasn't like from the movie. It came out at the same time as the movies, but it was based on the books. And so like you had Tom Bombadil in there or whatever. It's just like that was all out there. And then Star Wars games. Like I played so much Star Wars Battlefront 2, so much Star Wars Bounty Hunter, so much Star Wars Republic Commando, because Republic Commando was an FPS, but it wasn't like it was Star Wars, so it was fine.
Right.
Knights of the Old Republic was like my first like big sprawling RPG. Well, I guess Third Age was my first big sprawling RPG, but Knights of the Old Republic was like my first big like BioWare story RPG. Yeah. And so like though like there's a lot of nostalgia there. I played a lot of like old RTSs like Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Majesty. And then like the big ones that stand out to me on like GameCube and Xbox, like that kind of era, is like 007 Nightfire. Like played so much of that game, like me and my sister, just like split screening it, filling the maps like with me and her on a team against like 16 bots or whatever. It probably wasn't 16. It was probably like 8 or whatever the GameCube could handle. And then also like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, but like when it was fun and arcadey versus like the new Need for Speeds that are much more simmy. And like that, like we would take that game and like you could set it to like 100 laps or something ridiculous like that, and like turn like the like cops all the way up. And so it became just the like who can outlast the cops are sitting there with like a helicopter and like throwing spike strips or whatever, and you're just trying to like survive.
That was such a good game back in the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we played a lot of Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. That's where literally all of my Marvel knowledge comes from. And so if it wasn't in that game, I don't know it, which is, I think I mentioned when we were talking about like Spider-Man. I guess that's another one, Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah.
The game. That one was a good one.
I forgot about that one, but I played a ton of that game.
Oh yeah. Like that was mind blowing for my little mind.
It was the coolest game in the world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like the Prince of Persia, Sands of Time trilogy, that was excellent. I do have a lot of nostalgia for like World of Warcraft, like Wrath of the Lich King era.
Yeah.
That was like peak playing of World of Warcraft. Like I've gone back multiple times since then, but that was where I was the most into the game.
Yeah.
Was that era.
There's no better example of time and place than Wrath of the Lich King for me, because I have not been able to get back into WoW since. And I think a lot of that is because you guys were playing, like my whole family was playing, except for like my mom. And so it was like this big like community event, just like with us locally. But then we had a really awesome guild, and like the game was super active, and it was at a time where like it was still kind of clunky and janky, but there were some quality of life features. Yeah. And then as soon as that like shifted, as soon as the stars were out of alignment, like anytime I've tried to go back to WoW, it's just like, nah, this just is like a pale shadow of what it once was.
Yeah. And then, you know, like the era of us all like getting together on like a Sunday afternoon, hanging out where we play a bunch of like Rock Band or something, you know, like that's nostalgia for, you know, that kind of era. And up at college, like me and a few of my friends, like we'd gather around and we'd play like Magic the Gathering, like on the 360, or like Minecraft, or we'd watch like somebody playing through like Mass Effect or Dragon Age or something. So we also, there was a point in my college dorm, or my college apartment, where it was like Minecraft had just come out on 360. And I'm pretty sure my 360 stayed on for like 3 or 4 days straight, because we were all on like different schedules. And so like I was working overnight at like some of the desks in like the dorms at my college. And so like I'd be, you know, up late at night until I had my shift at like midnight. And then I'd get home at like 4 a.m. and like play some more Minecraft. And then I'd go to bed. But my roommate would get up and he'd then hop on to like be like, I wouldn't turn it off. Like he'd be getting up as I was going to bed. And so he'd load in and he'd start building in our Minecraft world before he went to class. And then our other buddy would like show up, and like as he was at class, he'd build in the Minecraft world. And so I think like our Minecraft world was just like, I may even still have that on like an old 360, like from cloud saves or whatever. But it was like we all had like a group Minecraft world where we would all build. And I'm pretty sure my 360 stayed on for like 3 or 4 days straight. And so like that was, you know, again, nostalgic for like more so the time and place and like hanging out with them versus like Minecraft itself, although it still is a cool game. But
that's one that completely passed me by. Like never, and I think aesthetic had a lot to do with it, but just never got into Minecraft.
Yeah. Well, even like coming home from college, like I'd bring it home, and like it was one that because I'm significantly older than like my younger siblings.
Yeah.
And so like I'd bring it home and they were allowed to play that one. And so like on a Christmas break or something, again, I'd turn on the Xbox and it was kind of like, yeah, you can just build in this world, you know?
Yep.
And so like we'd have like a, you know, Christmas break 2012 or whatever, where it would just be like we all went and built houses and built random crap in Minecraft for a month and a half while I was home from school.
Nice.
So we've talked a lot about the games. Do you go back and play most of the like games that we have talked about? And if so, what's held up? What hasn't held up?
So this is an interesting question, because the answer is yes to a lot of these. I've gone back and played them, but it's different because like I have nostalgia for Crash Bandicoot. I've played some of the newer Crash Bandicoot games. I've played the remastered Crash Bandicoot games, and they definitely didn't like excite me like they did back then.
Yeah.
I've gone back and I've played Soul Calibur 2. I think that holds up really well. I think that Stronghold Crusader, a game I didn't mention, but one that I played a ton as a kid, I think that holds up pretty well. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. I've talked about that before on content. I played the Switch remaster of that a couple years ago. I thought it played really well. I thought it ends kind of abruptly, but like I think it's a really solid game. Mario and Zelda, like they hold up for sure. Still think they're great games. But it's also interesting because like a lot of these games have, or I would say some of the ones that you can replay, you can replay a remaster or like a remake or something of them. So it's like, like I mentioned, Crash Bandicoot or something like that.
Like it looks like you think it looked, but it is actually much better.
Yeah, and they maybe have like tweaked some quality of life things, whatever they've. So like, those ones, sure, they still hold up, but it's like, like you have a Tony Hawk game on your list, and I played like Tony Hawk 1 back in the day on like N64. I played the remasters of those. They're great. They're really fun. But I don't know if I went back and played the original. Like, so we live in a weird era where it's like going back to some of these games is actually playing like a modern interpretation of it. The ones that are kind of locked to that era, no, I haven't gone back and played. Like, I played a ton of Medal of Honor European Assault back in the day. No, I have not played that since. Played like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game on GameCube. Have not gone back to play that. So it's like some of the games, I guess, that have not been deemed worthy to be brought into the modern era. And some of these games I have a curiosity to go back to and be like, did it hold up? Is it still fun? Obviously, it's going to be from a simpler time. But we also like, this year especially, but like we're living in a time where like games are just coming out and they're good games, and they're like, I think that gaming is evolving so rapidly and growing so much that like every generation objectively like gets better. And so it's like there are so many new games and new exciting things happening in this like in this medium, in this hobby, that it's like there's all this new stuff I want to check out. Do I really want to devote time to going back and playing like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the GameCube? Not really, especially if they're talking about making some new Ninja Turtles game, in a couple years. I'm like, oh, I'll play that. So it's an interesting question. I think there are definitely gems that just like stand the test of time, no doubt. Like, but then some of these games, it's like, would you go back and play the original Marvel Ultimate Alliance? Or if you had the itch for that, would you maybe pick up 3 on the Switch that came out like 3 or 4 years ago?
Exactly. Because even just like, I just did a quick little like Google search or whatever. The list of GameCube games that I looked at earlier, there are 651 games on there. Xbox One games, there are almost 3,000 Xbox One games.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit over 3,000. And so it's like you said, we live in a world where there are still games that I will go back and play. Like I'll still go back and play the Sands of Time, like Prince of Persia Sands of Time. I still will, like I've replayed like some of the like Majesty. I'll still go back and I'll still play like Age of Empires 2.
Yeah. Like,
granted, I'm playing the remaster that's on the Xbox now, but like Knights of the Old Republic is one that like I've got on, I think I've got it on my Switch. And so, like Star Wars Battlefront 2, the like old one, not the new one.
Yeah.
Like I'll still go back and play that. But for a majority of them, like I don't really go back and play. And I think it's a lot of what you said, where it's just like, I guess I replayed like the Halo games recently, but that was like Master Chief Collection, where it's not necessarily that they don't hold up, although most don't. Or at least not like, number one, I think there's a difference between like, I was a kid playing these games. And so like, I just thought it was awesome to run around as Aragorn in the Return of the King game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it would actually like hold up as a fun, replayable game for like 32-year-old me now. I still think it would be cool and I still have nostalgia for it. But were I able to easily pop that disc in and play it on a Series X, I don't know that I'd be like I'd play through it, but I don't know that I'd spend hours and hours and hours like grinding up every character to like max level and then resetting to do it again. Like
you would rather play Shadow of War or Mordor.
Yeah.
It's a better like gameplay loop.
Yeah. And so there's, like you said, there's way more games that hit the, scratch the things that you want to scratch. But also, I mean, like, we're at the point where we can kind of just like pick and choose. And as a kid, it's like the Return of the King game was the only game I was going to get,
Yeah.
that year. Or like,
Christmas
not
game.
that year, but like, yeah, it's like you get a few games at Christmas, you get a few games at your birthday or whatever, maybe. And like, when I say a few, you specifically usually didn't, like, it was like, oh, this is a game for like all of the kids, or like this is, like I get one, my sister gets one, my other sister gets another. And so it's like we all had to share. And like maybe you could rent some stuff at Blockbuster, maybe you could save up your allowance or whatever and go buy another one. But like you weren't getting games all the time. Now it's like there's so many games out there and there are sales all the time, and it's like,
not to mention Game Pass and stuff. Yeah,
Game Pass and everything. And so and I think you kind of alluded to it and we've kind of been talking about it, like a lot of these, like Wrath of the Lich King, which I can't objectively go back and play because I can't. Wrath is not out anymore. It's a different expansion with a different game. Like what I really miss about World of Warcraft is like the time and the place and the people. If I hop on World of Warcraft right now, Joe is the only person I know that still plays. Like,
yeah.
And I didn't play Wrath with him. I played Wrath with like a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And so it is like I said, Minecraft, like I think it's a good game, but I'm not nostalgic for Minecraft because it's a good game. I'm nostalgic for Minecraft because that was what me and my roommates would play in our room or like in our apartment. Like it was just kind of like, that was what we did. So I don't know, like I would say that like some of them probably hold up, or at least hold up enough to like, yeah, it's a fun little thing to like try out, but I don't know how many of them hold up as like I feel just like I did when I was playing this, I feel just like I did when I, was Aragorn when I was, like 12 playing Southern Gate for the 100th time that day. So
yeah, there are some gems that like just shine through, obviously, and I think a lot of that is because you've been replaying them. Like I've been replaying Super Mario Sunshine, and I've been replaying Wind Waker, and I've been replaying Stronghold Crusader and some of these games like throughout my life. And so I think that they hold up. Some games they just made all the right choices to be able to like withstand the test of time. But B, it's like it's one that has kind of always been there. Whereas like if it was something I played once way back in the day and now tried to go back to it, like it's a different story. So and now I don't even like imagine, when my daughter's like 15, 16 years old and I sit her down and I'm like, all right, you're going to play The Witcher 3. Like, is it going to be The Witcher 3 that has been like remastered and ported to whatever the current console is and like is
probably
like the most modernized version?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even the same, like the nostalgia and like going back to old games is going to be a completely different scenario than it is for us. Like you go back to like Mario 64 or something and it's like, wow, look at these polygons. Look how like floaty everything is. Like they're still trying to figure out video games. And now it's like, if I tell her I want her to play something from my childhood, it's going to be like, it will have been, if it's a game that's like worth doing this to, it will have been like updated and modified and like kept up, stayed relevant, or had a remake or something released. And it's like, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just different. Like the way the industry just operates differently now. And it probably will operate differently when she's like that age.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point too, because I mean, like I don't, in general, like games prior to the GameCube era, like I don't go back to. I don't play.
Mm-mm.
Like I have like I don't have nostalgia for like Mario 64 because I didn't play Mario 64. I've never played Mario 64. But it's also like one of those things where it's like having grown up without that nostalgia trying to play a game from like the N64 era or before just feels bad to me, you know?
Well, there have just been so many leaps and bounds in the technology between like
it's
a Super Nintendo
it's different
and now.
Yeah, like and it for some reason it feels different than like going back and playing a game from like the NES or the N64 feels different than watching a movie that was made 40 years ago, you know? At least to me.
Yeah. Well, because a movie
Like
made 40 years ago was in the 80s.
Well, that's true too.
But yeah.
Well, but a game made 40 years ago was in the 80s, and
yeah, but like
they haven't been coming out.
It'd be more like
long.
It'd be like going back and watching like a silent film from like the Wild West era. Like when they were making games in the 80s, like they were just starting to figure it out. Yeah. So and then just the technology and the fact that it's like interactive and the visuals and just like
I think that's the part is like I can overlook a lot in a movie if like the story's good or whatever.
Right.
But there's a lot because of games being an interactive medium that if I don't have nostalgia for it and I'm going back to play something that's like 20 years old, it's rough.
But they're also like, you tell people, oh man, let's sit down and watch Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's sit down and watch Star Wars A New Hope. Let's sit down.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are movies that have withheld the test of time. How many other movies came out like the same era as A New Hope?
It's true.
Like that people are like not going back to rewatch. So it is some of like, there are just certain things that stand the test of time. But yeah, also like the development in movies, obviously you compare like a Marvel movie to like a movie from the 80s, like obviously there are going to be differences, but like kind of the craft has been defined. Like, you know, this is but like I think we're just now reaching the point where games are kind of hitting that, like the craft has been defined, but also you've got indies and you've got double A's and you've got, so like it's just a whole nother beast. But yeah, it is interesting to kind of think about what will like the future generations, what will it be like for them, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I guess we've kind of already answered the last little, you know, talking point that I had on here, which is like, are we really nostalgic for the game, or are we just nostalgic for like the simpler times, the less responsibilities, the like time and place, which I think we've pretty much made clear of like, yeah, it's definitely more about time and place and just like the feeling of being 10 years old playing this game than it is about the game itself. But
yeah, I think in most situations that's the case. I think there are some games that it's just like I'm just craving that game. I want to replay it. Like I enjoy it. But yeah, for a lot of it, it's like Medal of Honor or something. It was like I had a lot of fun playing that game at the time with the people I was playing it with like the life I was living. It would not be the case if I went back and played it now.
For sure. Well, any other nostalgia thoughts as we kind of wrap this part up?
No. I think nostalgia is a hell of a drug. I think that it's fun to like look back. I think that it has its place. I do want moving forward, like developers and creatives and people like that to try to stop capitalizing on nostalgia so much and make new stuff, especially like in the movies. We've referenced movies, but like in games, like so many remakes and remasters, so many reboots, things like that. It's nice to get fresh ideas and fresh IP and new things.
Yeah. Like I definitely don't mind a game that is inspired by nostalgia, you know, like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm not really coming up with anything. But well, like what was it? Ukulele that just came, or that's come out recently. That was kind of like Banjo-Kazooie, capitalizing on sort of like the Banjo-Kazooie nostalgia. Like I'm fine with stuff like that because it, like you said, it's doing a new thing. But it is kind like, on the one hand, I would love a remaster of the Sands of Time trilogy because it's not easy to play anymore. On the other hand, we've got how many remasters of The Last of Us, a game that came out on the PS3. Yeah. So it would be nice to see some development put towards like, hey, if a game is still reasonably playable, like maybe we don't need to remake it again.
Yeah. I think it has its place for sure. That's a good example of when it's just like an obvious, we're going to remaster this so that it's on the current system and so that it ties into the show that we're about to launch. Like
Yeah.
is 100% a money-making scheme, as opposed to like bringing because video games have leapt and in leaps and bounds, they've like changed and improved and stuff, like bringing an old game that was good that people enjoyed up to modern standards for new audiences.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But like, I think the Resident Evil series seems to be doing it pretty well, of like, they're bringing their old games up to like a modern standard, and they're doing like in an extreme way with their remakes. But at the same time, they're making new games that are a different like perspective, different characters, different things happening. And so it's like, it's a nice balance of like the new and the old. And so if we could just kind of get that across all gaming, like I would love to have a better looking, better playing version of Bloodborne, but that game still works fine.
Yeah.
But like, if they announced that they were going to remake Elden Ring next year or something, like that would be irritating. So it's like, it is an interest, just because of the way the industry works and the way that like old games age so quickly, especially like in those early generations. Yeah. It's, maybe that's a whole nother episode in and of itself, but I do think that like nostalgia's fun. I just don't want corporations to only prey on it and not make new stuff.
Yeah. Because there's definitely like a level of like, this is not like, this is a cash grab that is preying on nostalgia versus like, this is something that is respecting the nostalgia and trying to like do something with the game itself.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun topic. I enjoyed it. Like, like you said at the beginning, if anybody is interested in maybe having us take a deeper dive on any of these games, or maybe, you know, doing a part 2 to this or anything like that, let us know. The best place to get in contact with us is our Discord server. And there's also a lot of fun stuff going on there. Conversations, memes, you know, we had a channel that we created just for the Game Awards last year, so we could all just kind of talk and chat in there while it was going on live, which was a lot of fun. So we do things.
We will
be
utilizing it this year too.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's also, and you know, if it continues to grow, this might not always be the case, but it's also not like one of those Discord servers that's just gonna like take over your phone and like make you regret joining. Like, I feel like it's a pretty nice balance. Yeah, exactly. So we would love to have you if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, and if you want to chat with us about this episode or any of our previous episodes, or if you have suggestions for future episodes, best place to get in contact with us. Dylan, what's going on the YouTube channel?
Sure. We are putting up the podcast on the YouTube channel. So if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment to let us know that. I assume most people are not doing that though, because I don't know who does YouTube music to listen to their podcast. That's weird. I don't want to alienate the like 3 people that do it, but it's a little weird. We've also got a couple of newer videos up. This past month, we released your rankings of the Marvel Snap cards, like your favorite card at each cost.
Yeah.
So if you want to criticize Andrew's choices or agree with them, that is up on the YouTubes. We've also got last episode I had talked about Dead by Daylight and how I've been playing that recently and enjoying it. The Alien chapter just came out. I'm a big fan of Alien, and so that was a lot of fun to get and play. I've been playing that some this week, but I made a video about some reasons that I think you should give Dead by Daylight a try. If that is of interest to you, that is also over on our YouTube channel. We try to release at least a couple of videos each month. Check it out. If you are not subscribed and you listen to this podcast, it'd be super cool if you could go subscribe on YouTube. That would be awesome.
Yes, we would really appreciate it. And then as far as the podcast goes, just sharing it with a friend is super helpful. Leaving a rating or a review is super helpful. All of that helps us grow, helps us expand our audience and find more people and bring them into the neighborhood. So we would genuinely appreciate it. That is it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Friendly Neighborhood Gamers podcast. If so, we would greatly appreciate your help in growing the show and the community by giving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other podcasting app that allows it.
We also have some great videos on our YouTube channel, including reviews, rankings, and other topics. We would really appreciate you checking it out. And if you want to keep up with everything going on in the neighborhood, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and feel free to jump in our Discord server.
We hope to see you there. Links for everything are in the podcast description. Thanks again for listening, and remember,
Stay friendly, gamers.